Hey guys, welcome back to the Reading Stack. I'm Hunter and I've got a wonderful read for y'all today. It is A Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens. And boys, it's a great story to share with you on what is today Easter, Resurrection Sunday, with a book that just thematically all over the place embodies resurrection and returning to new life, being given new life. The book, A Tale of Two Cities, was written by Charles Dickens and it was published in 1859. I believe it's a periodical, and it shows you in the book where the installments end, so he would release that in bits or periodicals at a time, which I think is pretty crazy. The book was in the original format to end up like this and to be so well done, well connected as a story. So it's published 1859. It's 390 pages. The setting is the two cities that the story revolves around, and it's London and Paris between the years of 1775 and 1793. So this was a great deal set many years before the time it was written and published, but very important in the age of revolution, this story and what it tells us. This version I have here is the Penguin Classics version. I've really enjoyed it. The introduction, the appendices that really give the context and explain what exactly is going on when we're so far removed in the future from these events. And I confess I don't know a lot about the French Revolution, but I think it's one of the ways God communicates with us, as I keep hearing themes or references to the French Revolution just more and more each and every day. So I kind of felt convicted, like I want to learn more about this time while the revolution was going on in the U.S. colonies, to learn about this French Revolution that I hear about everywhere, but I don't know enough of. So I'm pretty excited. I'll be releasing book reviews of several books like this that cover the revolution, that explain it, what it means for us today, and just the significance of it, because I think it's a long time ago and it can be lost on us what happened there. And I'm excited and enjoying reading a few books from there this spring season to really learn more about that revolution and what happened. Well, what's in the book? I'm going to read a few quotes just to illumine what the book is like, and to share some good words from it to hopefully pique your interest to read it. On page 1 we have a very famous quote. It begins, "It was the best of times, it was the worst of times. It was the age of wisdom, it was the age of foolishness. It was the epoch of belief. It was the epoch of incredulity. It was the season of light. It was the season of darkness. It was the spring of hope. It was the winter of despair. We had everything before us. We had nothing before us. We were all going direct to heaven. We were all going direct the other way. In short, the period was so far like the present period that some of its noisiest authorities insisted on its being received, for good or for evil, in the superlative degree of comparison only." So it's amazing how Dickens really starts out explaining this age, the best of times, the worst of times, as a very paradoxical age. And some of the podcasts I've read have really shown that it was, at the time this revolution happened, that France was the wealthiest country in Europe, so probably the wealthiest in the world, I would imagine. And then for this to happen, it's just really amazing, the overthrowing, the upheaval, when it is such a prosperous place. So there's just a lot there on that theme, that paradoxical nature of this revolution that happens in France. And on the last page, I want to read this quote, not to ruin any ending, but just I thought it was really good, worth sharing. It says on page 390, "It is a far, far better thing that I do than I have ever done. It is a far, far better rest that I go to than I have ever known. The end. So, and not to give you too much context about that, but that's just a beautiful line, and one I believe I've heard, maybe seen even on tombstones and things of that nature, a phrase that's really stuck. On page 282, we have our final quote I will share at this time, and it begins, "The new era began. The king was tried, doomed, and beheaded. The republic of liberty, equality, fraternity, or death declared for victory or death against the world in arms. The black flag waved night and day from the great towers of Notre Dame. 300,000 men, summoned to rise against the tyrants of the earth, rose from all the varying soils of France, as if the dragon's teeth had been sown broadcast, and had yielded fruit equally on hill and plain, on rock and gravel and alluvial mud, under the bright sky of the south and under the clouds of the north, in fell and forest, in the vineyards and the olive grounds, and among the cropped grass and the stubble of the corn, along the fruitful banks of the broad rivers, and in the sand of the seashore. What private solicitude could rear itself against the deluge of the year one of liberty? The deluge rising from below, not falling from above, and with the windows of heaven shut, not open." So that's a pretty powerful quote of the new era. These illustrations are so great at showing all the characters that the text shows, and really brings to mind all the events that are going on simultaneously in the scene. Really sets the scene well. And so, A Tale of Two Cities, should you read it? I would say yes, for the reasons that this is a total classic. It's one you hear referenced everywhere. It's been in plays, movies, music. I mean, it's just one of those that just is so well referenced, so influential, that we may have came in contact with it in a lot of vicarious ways, in a lot of indirect ways without realizing it. And it's great just to inform us of the past and some of the moral lessons that Dickens gives us with a great story, drama, and suspense. You know, it's a story filled with vivid imagery. He does that extremely well. He really sets the scenes up great, using nature or very good metaphors. The words he uses are just really interesting. On page 103, I have just one example I'd like to share with that. It begins just to show how he sets the scene. Chateau and hut, stone face and dangling figure, the red stain on the stone floor and the pure water in the village well. Thousands of acres of land, a whole province of France, all France itself lay under the night sky, concentrated to a faint, hairbreadth line. So does a whole world with all its greatnesses and littlenesses lie in a twinkling star, and as mere human knowledge can split a ray of light and analyze the manner of its composition, so sublimer intelligence may read in the feeble shining of this earth of ours every thought and act, every vice and virtue of every responsible creature on it. So it's talking about, you know, this, that would be in the time sort of when science is really moving forward, revolutionizing. You know, people like Newton are studying rays of lights, refraction and all that, the color spectrum. And it says, sublimer intelligence out there may study us, you know, every vice and virtue, like a scientist would observe light. And I just think that's a really interesting imagery he uses, setting the scene for what the rest of it he talks about. But, you know, the sublimer intelligence is, you know, it seems to be most likely at that time he's talking about angels, perhaps, God, you know, different celestial beings, probably not aliens, but I think reading that now you're thinking, oh, well, that could be, you know, the probing creatures out there that are analyzing us. Just just speaking wildly right now. But yeah, the book has very unique characters. It's very historic in what it talks about, the events going on in London and France, very interconnected, and so much of what happened then really history shifted into the modern period with this revolution, with this turnabout from the old royalty and the old order to new orders, new forms of government, you know. Yeah, just lots of twists in the story. So if you like drama, if you like to see stuff change, it'd be great. There's a lot of good irony, some pretty funny lines and situations, so that's very enjoyable. If you like guillotines, they're definitely in use in the story, and yeah, there's just a lot of shock and awe. It's a great story. So I would say if you're interested in things like that, A Tale of Two Cities would be a great read for you, as well as the moral stories, the spiritual themes that are very implicit, not just very well out, but just are hinted so heavily through the story. It's just really, really great art. Reasons why you shouldn't read it or why you wouldn't like it more so. You know, I think with me, the writing style and the language was a little bit difficult at times to get all of the plot down. Sometimes I would have to reread stuff multiple times, like, wait, what just happened in that paragraph? It just wasn't so clear maybe as other writers where you just get it through. It made me see I need to reread it. I hope to reread it someday soon, but I had to compare probably 2 different chapters. I really had to compare what I thought I had read with what Spark's notes said that chapter was talking about. Times where I got a little bit lost in the story, the narrative, just with the writing style and the language. And so I think that could be difficult for some people. So, you know, if you were up for maybe wanting to reread this, you know, if you were like, sure, I'm game for that, then it'd probably be pretty good. But it's one, I think, to savor, you have to read probably slower and maybe reread some stuff. And if you're not into that, you may not would get the most out of it. Just to rate the book, I'd say for me it was probably like a 9 out of 10. It wasn't the most enjoyable thing I'd ever read, the best, but I did enjoy it, and I am glad that I bought it. And so I think, you know, it probably wouldn't be a book you would hate either, but you'd like it somewhere up above that 5 range, at 5 out of 10, somewhere in a favorable light. What's a lesson we could take away from A Tale of Two Cities? I think a lesson that we could really do well with is the lesson it has on vengeance. It really shows just how vengeance is so cyclical. It just shows it so beautifully. I mean, that's a very age-old idea, is that, you know, an eye for an eye makes the whole world blind, or as literally in the scriptural, in the Bible, the way it shows that idea of eye for an eye, whereas in the Old Testament it was more of an idea like a punishment should fit a crime, that there should be repayment by the justice system, that if someone broke your leg, they owed, you know, the equal punishment, that the punishment shouldn't go way above, let's guillotine them, or it shouldn't be so minor that the person's like, sure, I can go around breaking legs because I won't get that, you know, in return. So, but that eye for an eye thing, as you see with Jesus, it had kind of transformed what people saw eye for an eye as, oh, I have, like, my revenge is warranted, like I can go after this person and get even, you know, and Jesus corrects that wasn't what it was about. It was about punishment fitting the crime or the action, that that it wasn't, could avenge ourselves, as it shows so clearly that vengeance is for the Lord. It's above what humans are really capable of holding in and carrying out well. You know, typically, as this book shows, the rich class in France, the old order, they reached a point just being very heartless towards the poor, the peasants, abusing them, rape, wantonly just killing them, and treating them as material things, not as people, not as human beings, not as an equal, but as something, as dirt beneath them. And so it just kind of bowled up to where the people had enough, and then the people, their leaders and whatnot, they replaced the old order in their cycle of vengeance, and essentially they replaced the oppressor with oppressor, and the violence just goes out of control to where people, you could say that bystanders, the innocent people, that they weren't the ones that they were trying to punish to begin with, but they became the targets. And you see that a lot with subsequent revolutions, is that violence just goes out of control, that people get to be viewed as things that are expendable for the cause or for the values, for the republic, for the party, you know, and that really has characterized a lot of bad political, spiritual thinking since then, that moving away from that Christian idea of people made in the image of God, it's that people are expendable, and it's ultimately to be as pragmatic, as utilitarian as possible, that people are expendable, that use whatever means you can to get to your desired end. And so just it shows how the oppression just goes to a whole new scale, and it is really a disaster. A lot of people left dead, starving, imprisoned, just brutal. And so there's a lot of lessons on that we could apply to ourselves individually, about vengeance, revenge, just seeing it go to excess, but also that if we want to avenge ourselves, it causes society to devolve into a bad end state, and we definitely don't want that. So I think great lesson on vengeance and revenge, and vengeance just isn't something we can handle too good. We always go overboard. So that's a great lesson I got out of it. That's just very vivid in the characters and the story. Well, guys, thank y'all so much for watching this review of A Tale of Two Cities. I hope you got a lot out of it. I do hope you will check it out at some point. It's a great read, not too long, 390 pages, and boy, it is a work of art. So thank y'all for checking out the review. Be sure to like, subscribe, comment. Stay tuned. We're going to have a lot more book reviews soon. And I hope y'all have had a great Easter this year. We'll have more content for y'all soon. Bye.